She was sitting on the floor in the dark. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Her little shoes were pressed flat against the tile. And she wasn't crying anymore. She had stopped crying a while ago because no one came when she cried, so she stopped. She was 3 years old. Her name was Lily. And she had been in that pantry for almost 2 hours. The house was enormous. Ethan Cole's estate sat on 4 acres of land outside the city. 12 rooms. A guest wing. A kitchen the size of most apartments. Staff quarters on the east side. A garden that someone tended 3 times a week. It looked exactly like what it was. The home of a man who had more money than most people could count, and who had spent the last 15 years building something from nothing. Ethan had grown up with nothing. He wanted people to know that, though he rarely said it directly. It showed up in other ways. The way he paid his staff on time every single time. The way he remembered names. The way he stopped in the kitchen sometimes, just to say hello before he went upstairs. He was not the kind of man who made people feel small. His fiancée was a different story. Diane Walsh had come into Ethan's life 18 months ago. She was beautiful and polished, and she knew exactly how to be exactly what someone expected. Around Ethan, she was warm and attentive. Around his business partners, she was charming and smart. At charity events, she smiled at exactly the right moments. But around the staff, when Ethan wasn't watching, she was something else entirely. Short. Impatient. Cold. She never said anything outright terrible. She was too careful for that. It was more the way she looked through people than at them. The way she would stand in the kitchen while Rosa was working and not say a word, just watch, until Rosa's hands started to shake just a little. The way she would ask for things to be redone not because they were wrong, but because she wanted everyone to remember who was in charge. Rosa Mendez had worked for Ethan for 6 years. She cleaned, she cooked some mornings, she managed the household schedule. She kept things running quietly and well. Ethan had never had a complaint about her. He trusted her completely. She had come to him through a placement agency when his last housekeeper retired. The note in her file said she was reliable, thorough, and would not bother you with things she could handle herself. All 3 had turned out to be accurate. She was also, though it wasn't in her file, one of the strongest people he had ever quietly observed. She had come to this country when Lily was 8 months old, with almost nothing except the address of a cousin who had an extra room and a contact number for a placement agency. She had gotten the job. She had kept the job. She had saved enough in the first year to rent a small apartment of her own. She was working on her residency paperwork in the evenings, at the kitchen table, after Lily went to sleep. Ethan didn't know all of this in detail, but he knew enough of it to understand what Rosa was doing every day she showed up at this house. He respected it. He didn't say so because she hadn't asked him to say so, and he thought that respecting someone sometimes meant not turning it into a conversation they hadn't invited. And Rosa had a daughter. Little Lily, 3 years old, dark curly hair, a smile that took up her whole face. On the days when Rosa couldn't get childcare sorted before her shift, Ethan had told her long ago, "Bring Lily. It's fine. There's plenty of space. She won't bother anyone." And Lily never did. She was the quietest little person. She would sit with her coloring book in the corner of whatever room her mother was working in. She would eat her snack at the small table in the kitchen staff area. She would sometimes fall asleep on the little mat Rosa kept rolled up near the cleaning supplies. Ethan had run into her a handful of times. She had showed him her drawings once. He had told her the elephant she'd colored purple was his favorite, and she had carefully torn it out and given it to him. He still had it somewhere in his desk drawer. Diane had not warmed to this arrangement. She never said so to Ethan directly. She was too careful. But she had made comments to Rosa. Small ones. Loaded ones. The house isn't really a daycare. I hope she's not touching anything she shouldn't. Ethan is very generous, but eventually there have to be some boundaries. Rosa had heard every word. She had nodded politely and said nothing. She needed this job. She had Lily to think about. But she had started feeling it every morning she walked through that front gate. The dread. The wondering. What today would bring. The morning it happened, Ethan was supposed to be in the city. He had a meeting at 9. 2 more after that. He had told Diane the evening before that he likely wouldn't be back until evening, maybe dinner, maybe later. So when Diane came downstairs at 8:30 and found Rosa in the kitchen with Lily sitting at the small table coloring, she had felt something settle inside her. Cold and deliberate. Ethan wasn't home. There was no one to see. Rosa. Her voice was pleasant. Surface level pleasant. The kind with nothing underneath it. I need you to start in the East Wing today. The windows need wiping down, and I want the rugs moved before the cleaner comes. Of course, Rosa said. She was already reaching for her supply cart. And your daughter, Diane said. She glanced at Lily without expression. She can't be in here while I'm using the kitchen. Rosa paused. I can take her with me to the East Wing. That wing has fragile things. Diane moved to the coffee maker and pressed the button. She can wait somewhere she won't get into trouble. Rosa looked at her daughter. Lily was looking up at Diane with curious dark eyes, completely unaware. She could wait in the staff quarters, Rosa said carefully. She has her mat there and her bag. The pantry is fine, Diane said, not turning around. It's large enough. She'll have everything she needs, and she won't be underfoot. Rosa stood very still. Mrs. Walsh. Miss Walsh. Diane corrected her without heat. Just flat. And we're not arguing about this, Rosa. It's a short time. You'll be done by lunch. Rosa looked at her daughter again. Her hands wanted to shake. She made them stop. Lily, baby, she said softly. She crouched down in front of her. Can you wait in the big pantry for Mama? I'll be right down the hall, okay? I'll check on you in a few minutes. Lily looked at the pantry door, then back at her mother. Okay, Mama, she said. Because she trusted her mother completely. Because she was 3 years old and she didn't know yet that some situations you shouldn't agree to no matter who asks. Rosa picked her up and carried her to the pantry. It was a large room, shelves of dry goods, boxes, cans, with a light switch just inside the door. She turned the light on. She set Lily down on the floor with her coloring book and her small cup of crayons. I'll be back very soon, Rosa told her. You're my brave girl. I know, Mama. Rosa walked out. She intended to check on her in 15 minutes. No more. She made it 4 steps down the hall before Diane called her from the other direction. Rosa, the East Wing. Now, please. And then Rosa heard it. The soft click of the pantry door. She turned around. The pantry door was closed. She couldn't see from here if the light was still on. Her chest went very tight. But Diane was already walking away, expecting Rosa to follow. And Rosa, trying to hold her job together, trying to think, trying to tell herself it was fine, the light was on, she would get there soon, followed. She did not get back soon. Because Diane kept her busy with task after task after task, and every time Rosa tried to step away toward the kitchen, there was something else. The rugs. The windows. The silverware in the cabinet needed reorganizing. The cabinet under the guest bathroom sink needed to be cleared out. Rosa moved through the work with her hands and her mind completely separate from each other. Her hands did what Diane said. Her mind was in the pantry.
She'll be fine.
She has her coloring book. She has crayons. The room is big. The light is on. But somewhere around the 40-minute mark, she started to realize she hadn't checked. And something cold started to curl in her stomach. She set down the cleaning cloth. I need to check on Lily, she said. Diane was standing in the doorway of the guest room, looking at the reorganized cabinet. She didn't look up. In a moment. I want you to pull that shelf out completely, not just clean around it. Miss Walsh. Rosa kept her voice steady by sheer force. I need to check on my daughter. Diane looked at her then. Something passed across her face. Just for a second. She's fine, she said. Like she knew. Like she had checked. Like it was a fact. Rosa felt it then, the full weight of what was happening. Not just today. Not just this morning. The whole 18 months. Every small cruelty wrapped in politeness. Every reminder of who had the power and who didn't. She put the cloth down on the cabinet. I'm going to check on my daughter now, she said. And she walked out of the room before Diane could say another word. Rosa came around the corner into the kitchen hallway, and she could see immediately that the pantry light was off. She could see it from the gap under the door. Dark. She ran the last 4 steps. She grabbed the handle and pulled. The door swung open and the light from the hallway fell in, and there was Lily on the floor in the back corner. Knees pulled to her chest. Coloring book flat on the tile beside her, forgotten. Eyes wide, adjusting to the sudden light. She hadn't been crying when Rosa opened the door. But she had been crying before. Rosa could see it on her face. The dried tracks. The red rims. "Mama," Lily said, very quietly. Rosa dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into her arms so fast that the coloring book slid across the tile. She held her. She pressed her face into Lily's hair and held her so tight she could feel her little heartbeat. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm right here. I'm right here." Lily put both arms around her mother's neck and held on. "The light went off," Lily said. "I couldn't find it. I know. I know. I'm sorry. I called for you. I know. I'm sorry." Rosa sat on the floor of the pantry with her daughter in her lap for a moment that she would not forget for the rest of her life. And she made a decision somewhere in that moment. She didn't name it yet, but she made it. Something was going to change. Ethan Cole had come home early. His 9 o'clock meeting had been cancelled at 8:50. The two that followed had been pushed to the next day at the client's request. He had sat in the city for 20 minutes considering whether to fill the time with something else, and then decided there was nothing else he wanted to do that badly. He would go home, get ahead on the contract review he'd been putting off, maybe eat something decent for lunch for once. He had come in through the side entrance, the one that connected to the garage. He hadn't announced himself because he hadn't thought to. It was his house. He didn't usually announce himself. He had been in his office for almost an hour when he heard something. He wasn't sure what it was at first. He set his pen down and listened. Nothing. He went back to the contract. Then it happened again. Faint. Very faint. It took him a moment to understand what he was hearing. A child. Crying. Quietly. Like someone who had been crying for a while and had run out of energy for it. Ethan put the contract down. He walked out of his office and down the hall. He followed the sound toward the kitchen. The crying stopped before he reached it. But the silence that came after felt wrong somehow. The wrong kind of quiet. Not peaceful. Held. He walked into the kitchen hallway. He looked at the pantry door. He couldn't say why he stopped there. He just did. He reached out and opened it. The light fell in. Lily was sitting on the floor in the back corner, knees pulled up, coloring book beside her, open to a page with a half-colored rabbit. Crayons scattered around her. Her shoes were pressed flat against the tile. She blinked at him. He looked at her. He knew immediately. Not the details. Not the why or the how. But he knew what he was seeing. A 3-year-old child, alone, in the dark, and it had not been for 5 minutes. He could see her face. He went down on one knee in the doorway. "Hi," he said, calmly, very calmly. "Hi," Lily said. Her voice was small. "Are you okay?" She thought about this seriously, the way 3-year-olds sometimes do. "The light went off," she said. "I couldn't find it." "The light went off," he repeated. "Yes." "How long have you been in here, sweetheart?" She looked at him. She didn't have a concept of how long. She just knew it had been a long time because she'd colored the whole rabbit and then she didn't want to color anymore. "Long," she said. Ethan looked at the coloring book. The rabbit page. Then the pages before it. 3 other pages, each colored carefully and completely. He was very good at keeping his face neutral. He had learned that in boardrooms. He used it now. "Can I pick you up?" he asked. Lily looked at him. She had seen him before. He was the man who had liked her purple elephant. She nodded. He reached in and picked her up carefully. She was very light. He carried her out of the pantry and into the kitchen, and he set her on the counter near the window, where the morning sun came through. "Are you hungry?" he asked. She nodded again. He opened the refrigerator and found the small containers Rosa kept on the lower shelf, Lily's shelf, he realized, because Rosa had organized it that way, easy for her daughter to reach. Cut fruit. Little sandwiches with the crusts removed. A small cup of yogurt. He set the yogurt and a sandwich on the counter beside Lily and found a spoon. "Thank you," Lily said. She picked up the sandwich and started eating. He watched her for a moment. Then he took out his phone. He did not call and yell. He did not go looking for Diane immediately. He did not storm through his house. He made one call. "Marcus," he said when his lawyer answered. "I need you today. This morning if you can." "Yes. Come to the house." A pause. "There's been a situation." He ended the call. He leaned against the counter and watched Lily eat her sandwich, and he was so quiet, so absolutely still, that it might have looked from the outside like nothing was happening at all. But something was happening. He was deciding things. Quickly and permanently. Rosa came around the corner with Lily in her arms 3 minutes later. She stopped when she saw Ethan standing in the kitchen. Her face went through several things very fast.
Surprise. Fear. Shame.
Something close to relief, though she didn't trust it yet. Then she saw Lily on the counter eating yogurt, and her eyes went to Ethan. "Mr. Cole." "Rosa." His voice was even.
Come.
"Tell me what happened today. From the beginning." Rosa looked at her daughter, then back at him. She told him. She didn't leave anything out. Not the instruction to take Lily to the pantry. Not the door closing. Not the fact that she had tried to get back and been kept away. Not the moment she came back and found the light off. But she also told him the other things. The things she had been carrying for months. The day Diane had made her re-iron a stack of table napkins 3 times, each time insisting they had a crease in the wrong place, until Rosa's hands were raw from the steam. The comment she had made in front of the other staff member about Rosa's accent, delivered as though it were an observation about weather. The time she had moved Lily's mat from the staff quarters corner to the supply closet, without asking, without saying anything, just moved it, and when Rosa found it and moved it back, Diane had moved it again the next morning, 2 feet further in. These were the things that didn't make headlines, that you couldn't point to as a single terrible event. They were the kind of things that built up like water finding the cracks in a foundation, slow and methodical and invisible until suddenly everything was wet. She told him all of it. Her voice shook once in the middle. Ethan listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "How long has this been happening?" he asked. "Not today specifically. The other things. The comments. The assignments designed to keep you away from." "Months," Rosa said quietly. "Not every day, but months." He nodded once. "You're not losing your job," he said. "I want to be clear about that before anything else." Rosa pressed her lips together. "Thank you," she said. It came out smaller than she intended. "Is Lily okay?" Rosa looked at her daughter on the counter, eating yogurt with careful concentration. "She will be," she said. Ethan looked at Lily too. "She already is," he said. "She's pretty strong." "She is," Rosa agreed. Diane came downstairs at 11. She walked into the kitchen the way she always did, like she owned it, like she owned everything in it, like this was simply the next natural step in a life that had been arranged in her favor. She stopped when she saw Ethan. Her face did something quick. A flash of recalculation. Then the smile. "You're home early," she said.
Warm. Surprised.
Like this was a lovely development. "I am," he said. He was standing at the kitchen island. His phone was face down on the counter beside him. His arms were crossed loosely. He looked like a man who was very comfortable being exactly where he was. Lily was gone. Rosa had taken her to the staff quarters to rest. But the little coloring book was still on the kitchen island. Ethan had placed it there deliberately. Diane's eyes landed on it. Something shifted behind hers.
"We need to talk," he said.
"Come and sit down." She sat across from him at the island. She arranged her expression into something composed and slightly concerned. Ready to be understanding. Ready to explain. Ready to manage whatever this was. "Rosa tells me you put Lily in the pantry this morning," he said.
Just that.
Simple and direct. No preamble. No softening. Diane's chin went up just slightly. "I wouldn't put it that way." "How would you put it?" She needed somewhere to wait while Rosa worked. "I made a practical decision." The light went off, he said. A 3-year-old was in there in the dark for close to 2 hours. "I didn't realize. You sent Rosa to the other end of the house and kept giving her assignments to prevent her from checking." Diane was quiet. "Did you know I was home?" he asked.
A beat. "No," she said.
"I know." Something passed across her face then. Not regret. Something more practical. The recognition that a calculation had gone wrong.
Ethan, she started.
Marcus is coming at noon, he said. He's drawing up the dissolution of our engagement agreement. The ring can go with him when he leaves. Diane stared at him. You're doing this over a childcare decision? He looked at her for a long moment. I'm doing this, he said slowly, because a 3-year-old was alone in the dark for 2 hours and you were the only adult in this house who knew where she was. And when I think about the fact that you walked around this house for those 2 hours, made coffee, presumably ate something, directed Rosa from one task to the next, and at no point did you check on her, I realize something. He paused. It wasn't an oversight, he said. It wasn't a miscalculation. You didn't forget she was there. You left her there deliberately. Because you could. Because you thought I wasn't home. Diane opened her mouth. I'm not finished, he said. She closed it. I've been told about the napkins, he said. The mat moved into the supply closet. The comment about Rosa's accent. None of those things would have made it to me on their own because Rosa is not the kind of person who complains. Which you knew. Which is why it was safe to do. Something moved through Diane's expression. Quick and controlled. You've been building a file, she said. I've been paying attention, he said. For the last 2 hours. It didn't take long. She straightened. Her voice got cooler, more composed, the way people get when they've decided to fight with strategy rather than feeling. Ethan, I understand you're upset. I'm not upset, he said. Upset is what I was in my 20s when things didn't go my way. This is something quieter than that. This is clarity. Diane looked at him for a long moment. I love you, she said. She said it the way you say something you think is still a usable card. Steady. Deliberate. He looked at her. I know you think that, he said. I don't think you understand yet what love actually requires of a person. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because I spent 18 months not seeing it either, and I should have. She had no answer for that. I'm doing this because of who you are when no one is watching, he said. Today made it very clear. I should have seen it sooner. I didn't. That's on me. You're being dramatic. I'm not yelling, he said. I haven't raised my voice once. That's the opposite of dramatic. He stood up. The guest suite is available until the end of the week. After that, Marcus will handle whatever you need. He picked up his phone and walked out of the kitchen. Diane sat at the island alone. The coloring book was still there. A page with a half-colored rabbit. Crayons scattered around it. She stared at it for a long time. Rosa heard about it from one of the other staff members. Then she heard it from Ethan himself, late that afternoon. He found her in the garden folding the outdoor table linens. Lily was at her feet drawing on the patio stones with sidewalk chalk. He told her what had happened. Clearly, and without drama. I want to make sure you know what I'm doing going forward, he said. In terms of security for Lily, when she's here. I'm adding a check-in protocol. Any day Lily is on the property, she's under direct staff supervision if you need to be elsewhere. No one person makes that call but me or you. Rosa nodded. She was folding a tablecloth. Her hands kept moving even while she listened. I also want to increase your pay, he said. Not as a gesture. Because I looked at what I've been paying you, and it's below what this household actually requires, and I should have adjusted it 18 months ago. Rosa stopped folding. She looked at him. He said a number. She blinked. She stopped.
Fair, he said.
It's fair. It should have been that to begin with. She looked down at Lily, who was drawing a sun on the patio stones with yellow chalk, completely absorbed. Mr. Cole, Rosa said carefully. Why are you telling me all of this today? The protocol, the pay. Because I don't want you to leave, he said simply. And I don't want you to feel like what happened today is the kind of thing that just happens here and gets ignored. He paused. It happened because I wasn't paying attention. I'm paying attention now. Rosa was quiet for a moment. Lily held up her chalk drawing from the ground. Look, Mama, she called. I made our house. They both looked down at the patio stone. There was a square with a triangle on top and 2 circles for windows and a door with a star on it. That's beautiful, baby, Rosa said. Lily went back to drawing. Added a sun. Added grass. Added a stick figure with curly hair that was clearly meant to be Rosa. Then, after a moment, she added another figure beside it. Bigger. Straight hair. Standing next to the house. Who's that? Ethan asked. Lily looked up at him. She pointed the yellow chalk at him very deliberately. That's you, she said. You live here. He looked at the chalk drawing. I do, he said. Lily went back to drawing. She added a small circle next to his stick figure feet. That's a dog, she informed them. You need one. Rosa laughed. She couldn't help it. It came out sudden and genuine, and her whole face changed. Ethan watched her laugh. He thought, I have not heard her laugh in this house in a very long time. That told him something too. He went back to his office after the conversation with Diane. He sat at his desk for a long time without opening anything. He was thinking about 18 months. Not the good parts. The events, the evenings, the way she looked at certain public moments. He was thinking about the smaller things he had chosen not to look at directly. The way the kitchen staff seemed to move differently when Diane was in the house versus when she wasn't. The way Rosa had stopped chatting comfortably in the mornings. The way Lily, the last few times he had seen her, had gotten a little quieter, a little more careful, like she was learning not to take up too much space. He had noticed. That was the thing. He had noticed, and he had chosen easy explanations for what he was seeing because the harder explanation required him to do something about it, and doing something about it was disruptive, and he had spent 18 months telling himself that relationships required adjustment, required patience, required giving things time to settle. He had given things time to settle. The thing had not settled. It had just found smaller and smaller ways to express itself, looking for corners where no one was looking. A pantry with the light off. A 3-year-old sitting in the dark. He pressed the heel of his hand against his sternum briefly, like something was tight there. Then he picked up his phone and called Marcus. Marcus arrived at noon and left at 1:15. He took the ring with him in a small velvet pouch, the same way you might carry something that has stopped meaning what it was supposed to mean. Diane left 2 days later. She did not say goodbye to Rosa. She did not acknowledge Lily, who happened to be in the hallway when Diane's driver came for her luggage. Lily looked at all the suitcases going past with the interest 3-year-olds take in anything being moved from one place to another. Then she went back to her chalk drawing on the patio. She had added 3 more dogs to the stick figure house overnight. She told Rosa they all had names, but only one of them was official, which was Chester. Rosa had not asked how a chalk drawing dog had become official. Some things with Lily you just accepted. That night, Rosa put Lily to bed in their apartment. She sat on the edge of the small bed and smoothed Lily's hair back and watched her daughter fight sleep the way she always did, eyes closing and then opening again, sure that something important was happening in the world that she was going to miss. "Mama," Lily said. "Yes, baby." The dark room was scary. Rosa kept her hand moving through her daughter's hair. Even. Steady. She didn't flinch. "I know," she said. "I'm sorry I wasn't there faster." "It's okay," Lily said. This was important to her. She wanted Rosa to know it was okay. "You came. I came. And then Mr. Ethan came." She blinked. "And he gave me the yogurt." "He did." Lily thought about this for a moment. "Is that lady coming back?" she asked. Rosa looked at her daughter. "No," she said. "She's not." Lily's eyes were at half-mast now. Almost there. "Good," she said. Very simple. Just good. And then her eyes closed. Rosa sat on the edge of the bed for a while after. She thought about the job, the pay increase, the protocol Ethan had described. She thought about what it meant to work for someone who, when presented with a choice between comfortable blindness and clear sight, chose to open his eyes. She had worked for other people before. People who saw and did nothing. People who thanked you for your patience while making sure nothing ever changed. Ethan had not done that. He had acted the same day, in the same hour. That mattered. She turned off Lily's light and went to sit at her kitchen table and opened her residency paperwork. She had 3 forms left to complete. She was going to finish them tonight. The week after, Ethan was in his office when he heard small feet in the hallway. He looked up. Lily was standing in the doorway. She had her coloring book under one arm. She looked at him. He looked at her. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she said. She looked at his desk, at the stacks of papers, at the pen in his hand. "You work a lot," she said. "I do," he agreed. She considered this. "My mama works a lot too," she said. "She does." She says it's important, Lily said. But she also says too much is too much. He set the pen down. She's right, he said. Lily walked into the office with the confidence only toddlers and very senior executives ever fully manage, and she climbed into the chair across from his desk, and she opened her coloring book. She colored. He worked. They stayed that way for almost an hour. Rosa found them when she came to bring Ethan his afternoon coffee. She stopped in the doorway. Lily was very focused on a page with a butterfly. Ethan was reviewing a contract. Neither of them had apparently felt the need to talk. She set the coffee down quietly. Ethan looked up. He glanced at Lily. She found me, he said simply. Rosa looked at her daughter.
She does that, she said.
There's a moment in a lot of stories like this where everything is supposed to wrap up quickly. The bad person is gone. The good person is rewarded. Everything gets neat. But real life, even in stories, is a little messier and a lot more interesting. What actually happened was slower and smaller and better for it. Ethan hired 2 additional household staff members. Not to replace Rosa, but so that she was never in a position again where one person with bad intentions could isolate and trap her. He put names and protocols to things that had previously just been hoped for goodwill. He also began eating lunch in the kitchen sometimes instead of his office. He said it was because the light was better. Nobody believed this entirely, but nobody said so. Lily continued showing up in his office. Not every day, but reliably. She brought different things on different visits. The coloring book, a picture she had made with glitter glue that had not dried, and got on his keyboard. A small plastic dinosaur she wanted to leave so you have company. A book she couldn't read yet but wanted him to read to her, which he did, sitting in the big office chair with her on his knee, reading a story about a bear who was looking for a warm place to sleep. 3 weeks after Diane left, Ethan came into the kitchen early and found Rosa at the staff table with a stack of forms and a look on her face that he recognized. It was the look of someone doing something hard and doing it alone. "What are those?" he asked. Rosa looked up. "Residency paperwork," she said. "I've been working on it for a while. Some of it requires a letter of employment. I was going to ask if—" "I'll write it today," he said. She blinked. "I haven't asked yet." "You are going to." She looked at the forms. "It takes a while to get right. There's specific language. Do you have a template? Or a list of what it needs to include?" She pulled a sheet from the stack and turned it toward him. He looked at it. "Read it once, completely, the way he read contracts." "I can have this done by this afternoon," he said. "I'll have my assistant put it on letterhead and get it notarized." Rosa looked at him. "Mr. Cole," she said carefully. "You don't have to."
"I know," he said.
He turned and got himself a coffee cup. "Do you want a coffee?" She sat with that for a moment. "Yes," she said. "Thank you." He made 2 coffees and sat down across from her at the staff table. Not at the island. At her table. "How far along is the application?" he asked. 3 forms left. "What are the hard parts?" She showed him. He went through them with her, not doing them for her but asking the right questions, clarifying the right things, finding the places where she'd been unsure, and helping her get sure. They were at it for almost an hour. At the end of it, Lily appeared in the doorway in her pajamas. She surveyed the table covered in paperwork. "What is that?" she asked. "Important papers," Rosa said. Lily looked at Ethan. "Do you have papers too?" "I have many papers," he said. "I have papers too," Lily said. She disappeared and came back 30 seconds later carrying her coloring book. She sat down at the table. She opened to a new page. A page with a lighthouse. She started coloring. The 3 of them were quiet together in the morning kitchen. Ethan finished his coffee. He went upstairs and wrote the employment letter. He had never written a better one. He had not known he was good with children. He discovered slowly that he was. It came out in the way he answered Lily's questions. She asked a lot of questions. Some of them were about things 3-year-olds asked about. Why clouds were white, whether fish slept, could a dog eat a strawberry, and he answered all of them seriously because she was asking seriously. Some of them were about bigger things, the kind of things children ask because they're still new enough to the world that they haven't learned yet not to ask. Why did some people have big houses, and some people had small ones? Why was it dark sometimes when she didn't want it to be? He answered those too, the best he could, honestly, without talking down to her.
She appreciated this.
He could tell because she kept coming back. Rosa watched it happening and kept her thoughts to herself. But she noticed the way Lily relaxed in rooms where he was present. The way she talked about him at dinner like he was a regular fixture in her world. The way she had drawn him into her Chalk House family without discussion, without ceremony, without any awareness that it might be remarkable. Because to Lily it was simply true. He was there. He was safe. He lived in her world now. Those were the facts. If this story touched you, if you've ever been in a place where you needed someone to notice, to step in, to say this is not how things are going to go, then like this video. Share it. Leave a comment about someone who showed up for you when it mattered. Because the world is full of people who see something wrong and keep walking. And it is also full of people who stop. The ones who stop are the ones we remember. 6 weeks after that morning at the kitchen table, Rosa's residency application moved forward. She got the letter in the mail on a Tuesday. She read it twice standing by the mailbox outside her apartment building. Then she sat down on the small bench near the building entrance and read it again. Approved to proceed to the next stage. It wasn't the final step. There were more forms, more waiting. But it was forward. Unambiguous, definitive, no going back forward. She sat on that bench for a few minutes just breathing. Then she picked up her phone and called her cousin. Her cousin screamed loud enough that Rosa had to hold the phone away from her ear, which made her start laughing, really laughing, the kind that starts in your chest and takes you over completely. A neighbor walking past with a dog looked at her with mild concern. She waved at him. He nodded and kept walking. She told Ethan when she arrived at the house the next morning. She didn't make it formal. She just said it in the kitchen, while she was starting the coffee, and he was reading something on his tablet at the island. The residency paperwork moved forward, she said. I got the letter yesterday. He looked up. Next stage, he asked. Next stage, she said. He set the tablet down. Good, he said. The way he said things that mattered. Simple.
Direct.
No drama. Just the weight of meaning it. Rosa nodded. She pressed the button on the coffee maker.
Thank you, she said.
For the letter. For sitting with me at that table. He shook his head slightly. You did the work. The letter helped. You would have gotten it without me, he said. It might have taken longer. But you would have gotten there. She looked at him. Maybe, she said. But you were there. That matters anyway. He didn't argue with that. Because it was true. Lily came downstairs 20 minutes later and was told the news by Rosa, who had figured out exactly how to explain it to a 3-year-old. Remember how Mama has been doing the big papers? Rosa said. Lily nodded. Papers were important. She knew this. Well, the papers are working, Rosa said. Lily considered this. Because you did them right? Because I did them right, Rosa agreed. Good, Lily said. She climbed into her chair. Can I have the cereal with the stars? Rosa got her the cereal with the stars. Ethan, across the kitchen, was looking at something on his tablet again. But the corner of his mouth was up. He thought, there are people who fight for years for ordinary things that should never have been extraordinary to begin with. And most of the time nobody sees the fight. Nobody marks the moment when the long work finally turns a corner. He was glad he had been in the kitchen for that one. About 2 months after Diane left, Ethan was going through his desk and found the small drawing Lily had given him the first time they had really talked. The purple elephant. Creased a little now, one corner soft from being handled. He put it in a frame. A small one. He set it on the corner of his desk where he could see it. Rosa saw it there one morning when she came in to leave his coffee. She didn't say anything, but she smiled on the way out. He heard it in her steps somehow. The change in them. And downstairs, Lily was at the kitchen table eating breakfast and telling Rosa about the dream she'd had, which involved Chester the chalk dog having become real and also having learned to talk, and he had said very important things that she couldn't quite remember now but had definitely been important. What kind of important? Rosa asked. Lily thought about this with complete seriousness. The warm kind, she said. Rosa put her daughter's juice on the table. The best kind, she agreed. The moral of this story is simple. Power without kindness is just authority. And authority without accountability is just waiting to be tested. What happened in that pantry happened because one person believed she was unobserved. that the people she was hurting had no one watching out for them, that doing wrong was safe as long as the right people didn't see. She was wrong, and the consequence wasn't a dramatic confrontation or a public shaming. It was something quieter and more permanent. A man who finally saw clearly, made a decision, and did not unmake it.